Georgia. Greetings from Colorado. I've noticed one thing about Georgians. You're beautiful. You're beautiful on the outside and you're beautiful on the inside. And some of you are showing up the speaker today. You look so darn good. I also was curious, who is all here this morning? Will you let us know who you are? Who are here from nursing homes? We'll start there. Wow, thank you for coming. How about assisted living, everybody? Yay, assisted living. How about adult day? We have some adult day, thank you. Okay, I'm going to miss somebody. How about HUD and housing independent? Yay, wonderful. And you might be raising your hand more than once. CCRCs, I'm guessing, in the room. Great. Now, I probably missed somebody. Ombudsmen are here. Yay, Ombudsman. Thank you for coming. And who did I miss? Home care. Yes, home care. Thank you. Great. And AAA. Thank you. Then how about this? Let's do disciplines just for fun. How many nurses are in the room? All right. Thanks, nurses, for coming. How about dietitians and food service? Thank you. And how about activities? Great. And how about social workers? Great. And how about business office managers? Oh, yay, there's one. There's always one. And who did I say administrators yet? Administrators. Yay, I love it. How about some CEOs or owners? Do we have any? All right, give her a hand, everybody. Oh, thank you for coming. Who did I miss? I apologize. Therapists? Any therapists? Great. Anybody else that I missed? I apologize. A resident. Who's our resident today? Carl, thank you for coming. Let's give Carl a welcome. Thank you. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. All right. Now, I have to start out with a disclaimer, and that simply is this. Hopefully you understand this, that much of the culture change movement has taken place in nursing homes. And there's a reason for that, right? Because they tend to be kind of institutional. So those of you that are not from nursing homes, will you please forgive me that much of what I'm sharing with you stems out of nursing homes. But I'm guessing that you're bright, brilliant people, and you came because you know that you can learn from all of that, right? And there are principles and practices and philosophies to culture change that I believe can be applied to any setting. And I would challenge you all to think about, in your less institutional setting, what might still be institutional, right? So I challenge you to think about that today. Let today be your day to think about that. So with that, we will begin. Ready? So I begin with a quote from a leader in the Pioneer Network, Wendy Lustbader, that says this: "No longer are the needs of the institution to come before the needs of the individual." What does an institution look like, everybody? What's institutional about an institution? Everything is the same. Good. What else? Yeah, the schedules. Someone once said the almighty schedule, right? That drives everything we do, right? What else? Bureaucracy, absolutely. What else? Rigidity, absolutely. What else? How many of you want to live in an institution? And why? Try to articulate it. Why do you not want to live there? What? What about the room? Say it again. Too many rules, yep. I thought you said a stranger in the room. And you know what? That's true too, isn't it? How many of you are looking forward to living with a stranger in your room? This is a problem, isn't it? This is a big problem. I don't know what we were thinking. Does anybody know what we were thinking? When do you ever choose to live with a stranger in your room? Actually, it's college, and you make that choice. And then you find a new roommate, right? Isn't that what we all did? Right. Now, how many of you like to sleep and not be woken up? Anybody? Does anyone like to not set the alarm? Yeah, look at that. I love you. 2 hands. It wasn't 1, it was 2. That's me, girl. Way to go, Candace. All right, how many of you don't even eat breakfast? Raise your hands. Seriously, everybody, look around the room. You guys are a little on the light side, but almost everywhere I go, about half the room raises their hand, everybody, that they do not eat breakfast. And in the vein of good health care, what do we make people do in an institution? Eat breakfast. Why? Why, nurses? Why do we make people eat breakfast? Nutrition, it's good for you. We're playing mama, aren't we? How many of you like it when someone else plays mama that's not your mama? You know? We did everything for efficiency's sake, right? We say that we have shifts for efficiency's sake. We created this efficient model, is what I've been told through the years. But do you realize it's not efficient? When we wake someone up who does not want to be woken up, what happens? Did we have any CNAs in the room? That's who I missed. And CNAs, what's it like to go in and wake someone up that doesn't want to be woken up? It's awful. I wouldn't like it. You know what, everybody? I'm surprised we have CNAs. Serious. I would hate to go wake people up that don't want to get up. And what happens? What ensues in that process? They fight you. Thank you. And the poor CNA is put in the place to do what? To get them up anyway. Because in the long run, do I do, what the nurse said to do? Nurses, are you listening? Or do I lose my job? What an awful position to put people in. Is that ridiculous or what? So then, we do get people up, and we take them where? Where do they end up? Actually, they end up in the hallway first, typically, right? Forgive me, I'm going to call it what it is, and kind of the hard part, the reality, the worst case scenario. And then they get to the dining room, and they do what? Sit and wait. And how many fall asleep? Because what do they really want to be doing? Right. So then we give them some food. Do they eat it? Maybe yes, maybe no. For the most part, no. Do you realize we've taught people living in institutions learned helplessness? Social workers, right? Learned helplessness. It means if I just let them get me up and I let them take me to the dining room and I eat a little bit of toast, then I can go back where? Is that an efficient model? Somebody tell me. It's not. Isn't it interesting? If you think about someone changing your systems so someone can sleep until they wake up, and you change the system that your CNAs are given the honor to not wake someone up and serve them when they wake up, that's an efficient system. And now maybe someone does want to eat. They're ready to eat. We waste money. We waste time. It's a waste. CNAs, you few CNAs in the room, I believe this would be the most honoring thing to get to do as a CNA. Everybody watching? I should be up here. With the skirt, I better not crawl up there. Okay. Everybody watch. This, I think, would be the most honoring thing ever to do. Ready? Sleeping. Right? Am I right, CNAs? Is that not honoring someone? How silly that I have to come to Georgia and tell this to you, right? No offense, but it's silly that we don't let people sleep till they wake up, that we don't give them food when they want it, that we don't give them food they want to eat. I'm going to show you some statistics today. Money can be saved, and it is being saved. There's every reason to do this. And it's really all about honoring the person, both the resident and the staff. All right. I wanted to say something else. It'll come to me. I lost my remote. Okay. Does this sound like it's fitting? Pioneers are transforming a culture of rigid rules to one of flexibility. Isn't that what I just kind of described? A flexible schedule for both staff and residents, where choice is maximized and staff are empowered to provide true resident-centered care. You've heard the term person-centered care, right? Resident-centered care. Some other terms are resident-directed care. And recently I heard one of the best, and it would fit all your settings, and it would fit you, and it would fit me, self-directed care. Is that what you're doing right now? Right now, are you doing self-directed care? Some of you are drinking, some of you are switching positions, some of you are going to get up and go to the bathroom, right? Self-directed care. A leader in our movement has reminded us that even when we say the words person-directed, it's third person. Self-directed and says what it is, that I run my life. And even if I'm under your care in adult day, should I still be running my life? And even if I live in your assisted living, should I still be running my life? That's another way to think of culture change. Supporting people in still running their life. It should never change. It's sort of like when you move into an institution, how many of you have somewhere on your assessments, what's your daily routine, or when do you wake up, when do you go to sleep? And you know what, you guys? It's almost like we say, well, that's nice, but it's too bad. Here's your new life. Here's your new schedule, right? So I'm starting to say, don't ask those questions unless you can honor it. It's dishonoring to ask and then not honor it. And better yet, move into the world where you can honor it and be so proud. The Pioneer Network purposely chose that word pioneer because, as you can imagine, people in the 90s who were starting to change how they did institutional care were literally pioneers, cutting a new path for us, swimming upstream against the current. And we thank God for that. And from what you've heard, what little you've heard so far, would you agree that this is all about just bringing normalcy back to people? The Pioneer Network calls it, they're all about rampant normalcy. Isn't that fun? Rampant normalcy. So let's get some more normalcy going. All right. Is this normal? Okay, some of you just had a little breakfast. I did not see any bibs. Where's your bibs? 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 Nobody brought their bibs. Are there still bibs in Georgia? Do you wear a bib at home? Did your residents wear a bib at home? Tell me, someone, in God's name, why do I move into a nursing home and wear a bib? Why? You know what I've come to realize what they are, everybody? That is an adult-sized baby bib. Bibs are for babies. Not for people who fought in world wars to save this country. Not for our grandmas and grandpas and pastors and teachers and everybody. Now, the issue is what? Do you call them clothing protectors here? I used to be the clothing protector police when I was the activity director, and if I heard you say bib, I'd say, that is not a bib. That is a clothing protector. Well, do you realize that I could stop talking right there? Do you realize the fact that we are afraid to call it what it is makes my point? Right? How sad. So if the point is to protect my clothes, what do people use to protect their clothes? Napkins, aprons. And here's what I've learned from this movement, everyone, that I would hand off to you as a tool to use. One time I learned that what you do is you engage your residents in a discussion about what is normal. Because if you took the bibs away today, what would happen? Would they be a little upset? You know why? It's another psychological thing. We've conditioned them to believe they must have them. So, you talk to your residents, just like I said to you. Did you wear a bib at home? No? What did you do, though? You had messy meals, right? Residents, what did you do? And they'll tell you what you just told me, napkins. And you know what one resident once said? I just loved it. She simply said, Carmen, I grabbed the kitchen towel. I just love that because it's so simple. She grabbed the kitchen towel, she held it up, or she tucked it in. And nowadays we have if you want to pursue this, you buy oversized linen napkins because linen napkins are normal. Linen napkins are on a table at a restaurant or in your home perhaps. And you get two of them. You put one, if they need two, one on the lap, one tucked in. Now, sometimes they're not going to stay tucked in, right? So what you can do is get the, what are they called? Alligator clips like they use at the dentist. And some of you are going, that's still a bib. aren't you? But really it's not. It's a linen napkin, and you're just helping it to stay on. And I admire administrators who no longer purchase and who threw away the bibs. And they will say to someone when they're asked, could I have a bib? They say, oh, we don't have those here. And the other beautiful thing you can tell your residents or clients is, you deserve better. We have linen napkins here. And I guess you can go somewhere else to get a bib. So, moving on. Here's what it looks like. There it is. Here's what it can look like, everyone. Here's a home. All these people have dementia. Is that beautiful? Is that dignified? Is that normal? I think so too. How about this? Is this normal? What are these called? Do you have feeder tables in Georgia? Some still. They're old, they're outdated, they're undignified, they're institutional. I encourage you to move on. Some people say they make a great poker table. So you may not want to get rid of them entirely. And then we have this problem of feeder, don't we? Who's a feeder? Who do we call a feeder? That's a feeder table. Do you guys also, is it also said sometimes in Georgia that a person is a feeder? Okay, we need to talk about that too. Do you know what a feeder is if you look it up in the dictionary? Help me, what is it? What's a feeder? Yep. Baby cattle, calves, and pigs. What's a baby pig? Is that a sow? I don't know. A baby pig. Piglet. If you listen to the farm report, it'll say, the feeders went for da-da-da-da today. That's what young cows and young pigs are called. We have bird feeders. We have troughs that are called feeders. We have fish. What are they called? Bottom feeders. So once again, I asked Georgia, in God's name, why are we calling people feeders? Is that dignified? Do people deserve that who are fought for our country to be called a feeder? I once had a resident tell me on a survey, I am what you call here a feeder. Oh my God, he knew it. And here's the most interesting part to me, let alone of the dignity issue. Everybody watch. Who really is the feeder? We are. We're not even using English correctly. Isn't that phenomenal? Wow. So I invite every one of you today to let this be the day that you never said the word again. Today can be your day. And I encourage you to pass that on to staff. Have them think about, do you know what a feeder really is? Do you know why we call people feeders? Do you think it's dignified? Blah, blah, blah. Do what I just did, okay? And help people learn we can do better. And you know what? What should we call a person who needs assistance with eating? Oh, thank you. A person. How about better than that? Yes. Peter, your speaker later, good guy. I just met him. He said, how about people's name? I used to come up with replacement words like dignified diner. Well, that's not very dignified, is it? That's silly. People have a name. Why are we making this up? You know, David needs assistance with eating. Xandra doesn't, right? It's just how it is. Cool. All right. So instead of these goofy feeder tables, I love this very simple picture where a nursing home simply put a couple square tables together and made it feel like a what? A dining room table instead. And now staff and residents are sitting together. There's more conversation. Just a great idea. Here's a definition of culture change, if you need it. I love that the Pioneer Network put it in the dictionary, so if you don't know how to pronounce it, there's the pronunciation. Isn't that cute? Culture change is a transformation anchored in values and beliefs that return control to the elders and those who work closest with them. Someone brought up hierarchy. We're going to talk more about that today. Wouldn't it be great if we gave back people, again, running their life, decision-making authority, and those who work closest to them? Who knows the residents best? Who knows your clients best? CNAs, the direct care workers. And who makes all the decisions in your place? The directors, the managers, right? This beautiful movement reminds us it's goofed up, everybody. Why would the people up here make decisions that affect people down here? And I don't mean disrespect with up and down, you know what I mean, in this pyramids schematic. Why? Again, it doesn't really make sense. Its ultimate vision is to create a culture of aging that is life-affirming, satisfying, humane, and meaningful. Let me ask you, in the culture of aging in America today, do those ideas come to your mind? When I get old, I'm going to live a life-affirming life. Does that come to your mind when you think of getting old in America today? What does come to mind when you think of aging in America? What? Sickness and living in a nursing home. What else? What's our culture of aging like in our country? Someone else making choices for you. Yeah, who's looking forward to that? That's right. Someone once told me the culture of aging in America is actually a culture of fear. I think they nailed it right on. Isn't that sad? I'm afraid of it a little bit too, I hate to admit. And it's sort of shame on us for doing that to ourselves. Other countries don't have this problem. Let me give you an example. Let me give you a vision. In the country of China, they don't really have too many nursing homes. Why? Because they take care of their elders, which is beautiful. But they do have some, apparently. And you know what they call them? Do you know what they call a nursing home in China? Anybody here know? Get this. They call it a home for respecting the elderly. Just the words they use change it all, don't they? Then, get this. Guess what their staff turnover rate is in a home for respecting the elderly in China? 0. Why? Because they are their elders. Why else? Why would their turnover rate be 0? Yeah. And people who work there want to work with the elders. They want to work with the sages of their society. That is my vision, you guys. I want that. You and I must love old people because this is what we work in. But we still have this culture of fear of aging, don't we? So this is the goal of the culture change movement. The vision to create this culture of aging that's life-affirming, satisfying, humane, and meaningful. Now, language comes into it. Culture change. Oh, I forgot one thing. Children go to study in the Home for Respecting the Elderly in China. Guess what they go to study? History. That's what I thought. Wrong. You know what they go to study? This blows me away. They go to study, get this, you might want to write it down, how to become wise. Oh my gosh, nobody taught me that. I'm missing out. I need somebody to teach me to be wise. And you know what I've learned from the Eden Alternative, which I'm going to tell you more about here in a minute, is this. As an activity director, I was very proud that I had 4 different schools coming in and out of my nursing home. So 1 school a week, 4 different schools, okay? And that meant that different classes came every month. So I was proud that so many children were coming into my nursing home and interacting with my residents, right? Then I learned that it can be better. The Eden Alternative teaches us that when you do that, no relationship can be built. 1 kid interacting with my residents in my nursing home 1 time in 1st grade, so what, right? But if I were to hook up with the same set of kids, be it young kids to older kids, and the same set of kids come back every month, that is when relationships build, right? That's when my little girl looks forward to seeing Lois, and when Lois says, "Happy birthday, Ellie," and gives her a doll for her birthday the second time she met her. I'm telling you the truth here, you know? Relationship. And if we want our kids to learn to become wise from our elders, it has to be relationship. If you want to learn to become wise from your elders, we have to have relationship. That's the only way, right? So think about that. Culture change can transform a facility into a home, a patient into a person, and here it comes, a schedule into a choice. Isn't that great? The Eden Alternative. I'm going to run through what we call 4 models of culture change that the Pioneer Network began to study when it first formed in the late 90s. So the first one is the Eden Alternative. Do we have any Eden associates in the room? All right, Eric, high five. Eric, everybody, get to know Eric, Eden associate. Where do you work, Eric?
I work here in Decatur, and I travel to the Netherlands and Germany for this reason.
Can we talk later?
Sure.
That's great. You guys, here's a resource. Nursing homes in Holland are a lot different than here, aren't they? Do you know that part of this movement began with someone studying nursing homes in Sweden that used no restraints, everybody? Carter Catlett Williams. So everyone get to know Eric Lucas. Did you write it down, Walter? We have to identify leaders amongst yourselves as you're growing this movement to learn from. So thank you, Eric. The Eden Alternative was born out of a physician's experience. Dr. Bill Thomas, have y'all heard that name? If not, might as well hear it and get to know it. He's a leader in this movement. Dr. Bill Thomas was a medical director at a nursing home in New York. He was paid staff. Do you have paid medical directors on staff in nursing homes in Georgia? Yeah? See, we don't. It's all contract in Colorado. That's cool. That's really cool. You can do a lot with that when they're paid staff. And see, he learned more about what went on, really, than probably most physicians get to when they're only coming in and out. And he tells the story that the epiphany came when he was in with a woman, a resident, a patient to him named Rose. And she had some rash. He prescribed some cream. And then Rose said, "Doctor, come here." And she said, "Doctor, my real problem is that I am so lonely." And the good physician went home and looked in all his medical books. He looked up loneliness, and guess what he found? Nothing. And this is what was born out of it. He says, he diagnosed the problem like a good physician would. The three plagues really of living in an institution are loneliness, helplessness, and boredom. And these account for the bulk of the suffering amongst people in institutions. Would you agree? Do you see residents who are lonely? Do you see adult day participants who are lonely? Do you see assisted living residents who are lonely? Do you guys have lonely people in independent housing? How about helplessness? Do people feel helpless at that point of their life? And how about boredom? Activity directors in the room. Are people bored? We know it, don't we? Not my center, she says. Okay, Janetta. Golden age, adult day, everybody. And adult day is different than living in an institution, isn't it? And your job is to provide all that. But we activity directors working in institutions know we go home crying at night sometimes, don't we? We know that our residents didn't get everything that they needed. And you know who it's usually? It's the residents who can't go to groups. It's the residents who need us one-on-one, one-to-one, that we end up not having the time for at the end of the day. All right, Eden Alternative. So the good doctor gave it a prescription and said, an elder-centered community would be one that commits to creating a human habitat where life revolves around close and continuing contact with plants, animals, and children. Now, you guys, what do plants, animals, and children have in common? They're all living things. If you think of an institution, in my mind, we sort of sucked the life out. You know, it's sort of how I think of it. We gave them long hallways and not a lot of life because these things aren't there, plants, animals, and children for the most part, right? And it also boggles my mind that we think it's a good thing to just have people who are all the same age be together all the time. That's really missing out on life, isn't it? And a human habitat. What is a habitat, everybody? What's a habitat? We create a habitat for the tiger at the zoo. What is that habitat? Yeah, his natural environment. Is a nursing home a natural environment? It's not. So I love what this Eden Alternative has brought to us. So Principle 3 is, the next 3 principles are what the Eden Alternative calls the antidote principles. Isn't this great? I just love that a physician did this. So the antidote to loneliness would be what? Companionship, right? And I love this picture, everyone. Look at that picture. And think about that woman without that dog, without the dog. And that's what we have across America, right? This is rare. Think about, could someone bring their dog with them to your setting? What's the rule in your setting? And do you realize this is going to start making and breaking admissions? When I want to come with my dog, and I don't care where I live, but I have to have my dog, and you don't let me, I am not going to live in your place. Do you realize, this was one of the best moments of my life, everyone. I was surveying an assisted living, and I ran across a physician order that said, Michael must have his dog with him wherever he goes. Oh my gosh. Do we have any physicians in the room? We need this, don't we? This would change the landscape of institutional care, wouldn't it? Let's get the physicians on board. So, you know what? It's kind of hard to be lonely when you have a cat sitting on your lap, isn't it? It's kind of hard to be lonely when you have a bird in a cage in your room. And it's kind of hard to be lonely when there's a dog that loves you. Isn't this beautiful? And you as staff don't have time to sit and hold the hand like you wish you did, right? So that's what an animal or a child or a bird can do. Then the antidote for helplessness is this. The Eden Alternative teaches us that so many people in long-term care, those of you who are caregivers are giving all the care. And then you go home and do what? Give more care to somebody, probably, or a dog yourself or animal. And the people that move into an institution, that's all taken away, isn't it? Oh, you don't worry about it, we'll do it. We mean well, that's caring, but that's backwards. And so Eden reminds us, people need the opportunity to care for a dog, care for a child, care for a plant, care for the garden. It's giving of myself still, right? It's contributing. And then the antidote to boredom is variety and spontaneity. Variety and spontaneity are kind of fun, don't you think? We can't just do the same routine every single day, right? How many times do you leave a job because it got boring, right? You need a little variety. Or some of you love your job because there is a variety in it. Activities is really good for that. Look at this picture. This is a real picture from one of the first nursing homes that did the Eden Alternative. And Nancy Fox, the former executive director of Eden, was the administrator in this home. And she said that the famous story became when the dog chased that cat and the cat ran into the fish tank. And the fish tank broke and there were fish flopping all over the place. A big mess, right? Is life full of big messes, little messes all the time? Isn't that life? And guess what those residents and those staff still talk about to today? It created a story. It created part of their legacy, that home's legacy. And that's a great picture, I think, of variety and spontaneity, what animals, children can bring. Principle 6. Now, sometimes the Eden Alternative gets a bad rap, and everybody thinks it's about fur and feathers. And they'll say, oh, we got a dog. We did the Eden Alternative. No. This is about 10 beautiful principles that you can commit to if you choose to. Principle 6. Meaningless activity corrodes the human spirit. The opportunity to do things we find meaningful is what we need. Right? 7, principle. Medical treatment should be the servant of genuine human caring, never the master. Is treatment the master right now in most institutions? Medical treatment. Is that what you want when you go live somewhere? You want it to be all about your meds and all about your ADLs and, is that what we look forward to? Someone helping me brush my teeth in the morning, my skin treatment. Is that what your life is about? No. Dr. Thomas reminds us that here's your life, you guys. Here's your beautiful life, right? With a little medical treatment on the side, right? But it's sort of flipped in institutional care. Here's medical treatment and with a little bit of life, thanks to the activity department. Is that what we want? No. Principle 8. We honor our elders by de-emphasizing that top-down bureaucratic authority and seek instead to place the maximum possible decision-making authority into the hands of the elders and those direct caregivers that work closest to them. There it is again. Principle 9, this is a never-ending process. And Principle 10, wise leadership is the lifeblood of any struggle against these 3 plagues. And you can't do it without it. So that's why I love, especially when we have an owner and administrators in this room, you guys, you have the biggest opportunity as leaders of where you work. The Eden Alternative says that the administrator of a nursing home or of an assisted living or the director of any program is a world maker. You get to be a world maker. And are you making a world where people want to live and are thriving and where people want to work or not? When I grow up, I want to be an administrator. I want to be a world maker. I want to do all these things that we're hearing about and make life beautiful for people, both working there and living there. So the Eden Alternative, if you want to start looking into animals, bringing animals into your place, don't just bring a dog tomorrow, okay? You have to prepare the soil. The Eden Alternative uses the garden as a metaphor. And you have to warm the soil. You have to start talking about it. Get a committee together. They have the best resource called the Animal Welfare Guidelines if you want to purchase that and help that along your journey. Eden Associate Training, you can get on the Eden website and find out where could I go to become an Eden Associate. It's a 3-day training. It costs about $400. And it's a lot like a Back to the Future experience. For 3 days, you're sort of propelled into the future. Less institution, more real life. And then you have to go back to work on Monday. And so it feels sort of like Back to the Future, but it will give you a vision and it will help you. And the more staff you get trained as an Eden Alternative, the further you're going to go, the quicker you're going to go. You can become an Eden registered home. That simply means we commit to these 10 principles. And we're going to work on them. And I actually recommend that. You know why? Because it gives you a goal. It gives you a vision. It forces you, if you will, to keep working on those 10 principles. And homes that are Eden registered are much further along than those are not. You don't have to, of course, but it's just a wonderful tool for you. Dr. Bill Thomas's first book, Life Worth Living, is available. What Are Old People For? How Elders Will Change the World is a fabulous book about, really respecting our elders. And they always have an international conference. All right, moving on. The regenerative community is another model that the Pioneer Network studied, and it comes to us from a couple, the Barkins in Berkeley, California. They will tell you that what led them in the 70s was simply this. They had a hypothesis. If we bring people together living in an institution more often to talk about meaningful things, good things will come from it. They were hippies back then, and they would tell you they're old hippies, and so I call that the hippie hypothesis. If we bring people together to connect, good things will come from it. So that's what they did. They created what is called a community meeting, and I'm going to tell you about the best one I ever saw. A colleague of mine in Colorado learned about this at our very first Culture Change event, like today, and she did some research on it. And so that was in April, everybody. By May, she was holding her very first community meeting. And I want you all to note how much money this costs. How much money does it cost to hold a meeting? Nothing, right. So look at this. A community meeting is designed for staff and residents to connect. So it's not an activity for just the residents, okay? You have got to have a commitment by all your managers to invite and allow staff to go to the community meeting, or else it's not a community meeting. That's how it fails if you don't get staff there, okay? Don't do it if you don't get staff there. And of course, a community meeting can be anything, can look like anything you want it to look like. I recommend that you and your residents decide what you want your community meeting to look like. But here's what I saw in one community meeting, one nursing home in Colorado. A resident had the microphone and opened the meeting with a song, leading a song. And sometimes you might think, oh, a song, what a waste of time. Well, you know what? Some songs can really build energy in a group. Perhaps God Bless America, for instance. Perhaps a patriotic song. So don't write them off. They can be a very good thing. maybe the Pledge of Allegiance. Then the administrator in this case ran the meeting, and she would announce whose birthdays it was, staff and residents. From what I notice in most institutions, staff birthdays don't get a lot of attention, right? Right? We're busy. So this is a beautiful place to honor birthdays for the week. This is typically a weekly meeting. You could do monthly, but I think you get more bang for the buck if you do it weekly, and you connect better if you do it weekly. Upcoming events. Maybe landmark events, like Harry just had his, 9th grandbaby born, that kind of thing to celebrate. How about this? New residents and new staff get the opportunity to become known, not just announced, this is Janet and she's going to work in the dietary department. But hey, Janet, tell us about yourself. This is a beautiful venue to get to know new residents and new staff. I've seen it where a resident has given a weather report at every community meeting. It's beautiful to find jobs for residents as well as staff. There's a young maintenance man who gives a joke every single community meeting. So now Matt, the maintenance guy, has this new identity. He's not just the maintenance guy, he's also the joke teller. That can be beautiful for somebody to have a different identity than just their job. And can't you just see all the people giving him jokes, all the email jokes going to Matt? You could do a culture change top update, like, okay, everybody, we started open dining. How's it going? You can have a great discussion, staff and residents together. A great thing I saw was a policy reviewed. This administrator put up on the overhead projector in large print, and it said, Clear Creek's policy on preventing pressure sores. And I'm sitting there as a surveyor going, oh my Lord, how boring could that be? But do you know what she did that was brilliant? Brilliant. Is it good to review policies sometimes? Yeah. And so she just said to her residents, we call them pressure sores and pressure ulcers. You might know them as a bed sore. And we don't want you ever to get one. So we're just reminding you, this is why sometimes we ask you to drink more or lay down or get up or reposition. And it was just a wonderful, in layman's terms, reminder of why we do what we do around here. Then she did one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. So let's pretend we're in our community meeting, okay? And I'm the administrator, and you're both staff and residents, and I say to you, everybody, just in case you haven't heard yet, Joe Smith and Mildred Jones are both actively dying. If you didn't know, hospice is working with them. They probably won't be with us much longer. So if you haven't had a chance to go say goodbye, please do it soon. Is that not one of the most beautiful things you've ever heard? It brought me to tears. And do you know that both those residents died the very next day at the very same time, like just a few minutes apart? That is a community, right? Now, many of you are wondering about HIPAA, right? Well, first of all, now they weren't gone yet, but when you're dead, HIPAA doesn't apply, so just remember that. But they were still with us, and I don't mean disrespect, of course. But one thing we forget about HIPAA is this. HIPAA doesn't just say you can't. It actually says you can if you have what? Right. So think about it. There's different ways to get permission, and I think of it in the simplest way, that maybe before the meeting I simply walk down to the room. If these people are dying, the POA is probably in the room. You get my point. And I would ask the resident themselves if I could, or the POA, may I announce this, just in case someone doesn't know. And wouldn't you agree that most people are going to say, of course? Not everyone, but most, right? So you get the idea. There's ways to get that permission and to do it, and it's beautiful. So you get the idea of a community meeting, costs no money. You can really start to change your culture. The next model, Bathing Without a Battle. How many of you have seen Bathing Without a Battle video? Right on. Already back in 2002, everybody, we had grant makers fund this beautiful video and CD-ROM, it's an interactive CD-ROM, and send it to every nursing home in America for free. Did you know that? That is pretty amazing if you think about it. You know how many nursing homes there are in America? There were 17,000 at that point. The number's going down to 16,000, I've heard recently. But so those of you working in a nursing home or a CCRC, and you could go to the nursing home, this is often sitting on the staff development coordinator's bookshelf. And many people have never seen it, but it's there because it was sent for free. And if it's not there, you can go to that website on your handout and go get one. It's about $30. Here is what it will show you. When someone is screaming in the shower, what are they telling us? They're scared. I just like to think of it as, hello, this isn't working for me. You know? Isn't that true? Hello. And maybe they can't say it that way, so they scream, right? And have we viewed that as a problem traditionally? No. Why? Once again, it's sort of like breakfast, right? Because you need your shower and you need to be clean, right? The institution took over your life. Well, thank God for leaders like Joanne Rader is a name you might want to learn. Joanne Rader's on there. I don't know if you can read it on your handout, but she's a nurse who was very involved in the restraint reduction movement of the 80s. And she said once that kind of got going, in her words, if she was standing here, she would tell you, I then wondered, just like restraints where we did not intend for harm, what else are we doing that's hurting people, but we don't intend it to? And in her words, what I've learned from her, she said, it didn't take me long to hear the screams coming from the bathing room to realize that was my next issue. So she's brought a lot of attention that we can bathe someone without a battle. There are lots of ways to bathe someone. So let me tell you two quick stories. One, as a surveyor in Colorado, during one of my last surveys, I had to deal with this issue. I was investigating a sample resident, and she had hospice services. So as a surveyor, that meant I needed to look into the hospice services. Was she getting what they said they were going to give her? I'm looking in the hospice records, and the CNA notes started to get my attention. They said, resident tearful in the shower today. Okay. Resident tearful in the shower again today. Okay. Resident fine in the room, tearful in the shower, fine in the room again. Okay. The worst thing said, resident spoke of drowning today. The next one said, resident tearful in the shower today. Are you getting the picture? If you were a surveyor, do we have a problem here? Here's the worst part. They incriminated themselves. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's what you would say. Because their CNA care plan said, shower, check, bath, check, as tolerated, check. They did not follow their own care plan, did they? Because she was not tolerating the shower. So I had to cite a deficiency. Guess at what tag, everybody? What was that? What was the deficient practice? Nope. Harder than not following the care plan. Bigger. Abuse. Now, what was the abuse? What was the outcome to her? What was she showing us? Psychological harm. So then, guess what level of severity I had to cite it at? Not a J. It maybe should have been a J back then, but we called it as a G. It was actual harm to a person, psychosocial harm. So, isn't that a bummer? And you know what? On the phone with the hospice CNA, all it took was talking a little bit about these practices. And I said to her, you know, there's this whole movement called Bathing Without a Battle, and we've learned things like, you know, you got to experiment, see what works for someone. Many people, everybody, you probably know this, I'm preaching to the choir, but many people with dementia, especially, have trouble with the water coming into their eyes for various reasons, or into their face, like a shower does, right? So guess what? The very next the very next time she worked with the resident, she gave a bath. And she was very careful not to get the water in the eyes, and it was fine. Was that worth a G abuse tag? I think not. I want to tell you the story. When you get your hands on this, you can watch this video. That CNA and another CNA take this resident Mary, they go to her room and they say, it's time for your shower. And guess where the battle began? With those words, it's time for your shower. Oh, I don't need a shower. I don't want a shower. And all the way down the hall, I don't want a shower. In the shower, oh, stop it. And they're trying to shower her, and she starts to swear and say words she probably doesn't normally say. And because she just didn't want it, it was upsetting to her. I don't know why. She has dementia. And do you know, it was so upsetting to her, she ends up biting one of the CNAs. And you can't see it here, but this woman, I don't want to label her. So instead of saying a double amputee, what do I say? She had both legs amputated at the knee. That's what I would say, right? And so guess what happens? The CNA who got bit had to leave to tend to her wound. And because there's only one CNA now trying to bathe someone during a battle, guess what happens? She tips backwards. And I mean, think about this. This wasn't staged. The family said, sure, go ahead and tape for purposes of education, but they didn't know that was going to even happen. So then, the next clip, okay? You see this horrific clip. Then you see the next clip right here. One of those CNAs approaches Mary in her bed and says, Mary, how would you like it if I just use these warm claws to give you a wash-up? Mary says, okay. In her dementia, she can't even think of a reason not to do that, right? So they gave her a bed bath, everybody, and it was very positive. And at the end, Mary said to the CNA, I don't know her name, but she said, you girls are so good to me. How can I pay you? And you know what I did in a conference session in 2003? I wept. I never wept sitting in a little chair at a conference before, because that is going on right now across this country, that battle, for no reason. So everyone in this room, you have the opportunity to make those battles cease and learn creative techniques, learn what people enjoy best. The other little pictures are the idea of just keeping someone draped, keep my top draped while you wash my bottom and vice versa, and keep me warm, and just simple things. If I'm in a shower chair, put my feet on like one of those wash basins so they're not just dangling. They're just simple, easy, doable things. And lastly, I recommend that you show this video to every single staff member in your place. Everyone, even though they don't all give baths, because it just starts to open their eyes to person-centered care, to being creative, to doing what works for people. It'll be really worth it. Another part of this movement is environment. So, many of our bathing areas don't look like yours at home looks, or mine, right? So just for fun, here's some pictures of one bathroom that they redecorated a little bit, a little decor. Towels hanging on the wall can really soften that institutional feeling. They put a nice lanai type screen for privacy. I think that's beautiful. Someone went to the trouble to sew coverings for the institutional soap dispensers that match the shower curtains. And someone went to the trouble to do those long 18-inch strips so they're not, in that 18-inch realm around the sprinkler heads. A little vanity. At this home, nobody uses it, but again, it sort of softens it. So it's not about just changing the environment. The practice is more important, but that is part of this movement. All right, the next model is neighborhoods. Neighborhoods instead of what we have typically called units. A neighborhood is where you have permanent staff assignments. If that's new to you, it'll make sense that you have the same staff taking care of the same residents all the time. We really are finding statistics and data to prove it, and you know it in your heart, that when the different people take care of someone, the care is inconsistent, right? When the same person takes care of someone, you can pick up on what? Better. Nurses, change in condition, how important is that, right? If I take care of you every single day, I am going to know exactly when something's different, right? It's beautiful. For no other reason, do it for that reason. Let alone relationship. Relationship can build. Let alone what I call peer pressure. If I take care of Tanya every single day, everybody, a beautiful thing starts to happen, an ownership in the sense that you all know that I take care of Tanya. So Tanya better be looking darn good, right? And if I know Tanya well, I will make sure she has her lipstick and her jewelry on, things that are important to her. So there's many reasons to do it. How many of you are part of Quality First campaign, Advancing Excellence? This has become one of the 8 goals. So you can see the respect that this concept is getting. We're learning the advantages. We're starting to also see a more blended role on neighborhoods, and I'm going to talk about households in a minute. So staff are starting to have blended roles, cross-training. So I just don't only do dietary, and I don't only do CNA. And the best way to think about it, everybody, if this is new to you, think of a traditional unit. Think about how many CNAs you have on that unit, let's say 3. And now think of it that we add a 4th CNA, but we also add these blended duties. So now I might also be in charge of helping with the meal on my neighborhood, or helping do personal laundry. I'll show you a picture of what personal laundry looks like on a neighborhood or a household. And I might be doing light housekeeping. So does that make sense? We add the number of staff, and we also add duties. But now I have more ownership on everything to do with my resident, not just one piece of them. Is it not ridiculous that we divide someone up into pieces? And social workers get to say, oh, I don't do that. Or, any of us, I don't mean to pick on social workers, but any of us, this movement calls it disciplinary silos, that we work in disciplinary silos. And we need to break those silos down. If someone has to go to the bathroom, in my mind, everything else stops, especially coming from an activity viewpoint. If I'm gathering people for an activity and someone has to go to the bathroom, everything stops. What do I have to go do? I have to go find a CNA. Boy, they love it when the activity director comes around and says, excuse me, someone has to go to the bathroom. Someone else. They love that. And then who's waiting in that process? The resident, the client. And whose time was just wasted? Everybody's. I've come to realize, everyone, through this movement, that really good customer care means that we can all serve that resident no matter what they need. And some of you hearing this for the first time are going, oh my God, let me out of this room. I do not want to take people to the bathroom. Well, I don't either. But you know what? My heart is softening. I'm starting to realize I'm ready. I'm ready to become a CNA. I'm ready to be able to help people with whatever they need help with. And guess what else, everybody? Kim heard this at the Pioneer Network conference, as I did 2 weeks ago. The former president of the Pioneer Network, Sue Masorski, a nurse, stood at the podium in front of 1,100 people and said this. She said, everybody, when I ask residents, what is it? What is the one thing you want? You know what they say? I just want to be able to go to the bathroom when I need to go to the bathroom. And you know what? That's pretty bad. We haven't come very far if that's the issue. And I love how she said, who cares if the bathroom's pretty if someone can't get to the bathroom when they need to go? A basic human need, a basic human right if I'm being taken care of, right? Think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Who cares about activities? See, it all stopped if I need to go to the bathroom. And I'm going to tell you a story, I hope, in a minute, of how one home took care of that. We could also have neighborhood councils, and some homes have done this where they invite all staff to belong to a neighborhood. I'd highly recommend this. So even the business office manager would pick a neighborhood where she wants to belong. So all staff can belong to a neighborhood and go to neighborhood council meetings. Here's a picture of a home that remodeled in Albany, New York, that turned themselves into a neighborhood. You can sort of see steam tables there in the center. Isn't that a beautiful country kitchen? Across the hall, we now have a workstation area with tables like in a living room and dining room. And so staff are intermingling with residents. That's the reason to get rid of nurse stations. Notice there was no nurse station. They removed it. The reason is to get residents and staff closer together, like a family. I also love how they tuck their medical records away into this cabinet. What a beautiful idea to just tuck it away. Medical records themselves are very institutional. Carpeting can do a lot to soften the environment, as you know. That nurse brought her dog with her. That's a first step, everybody. But really, you got to admit, the dog living there is better. It's real, you know. Doesn't come and go. Pantries where people can go help themselves. They don't have to call down to dietary. We need more mustard. And here's what it looks like to have a washer and a dryer on each neighborhood. So now I, as a resident, can go wash my clothes if I'm capable and want to, or my family can do it and not have to lug it home and back. Or in that blended role, I do the personal laundry for my residents. It's very doable. And we see lots of advantages, everybody, where stuff isn't shrinking and you can do it on cold and that kind of thing. And we don't lose so much. Here's another one. Fairport Baptist, also in New York. Peter, New York's well represented here, did what they call hallways to households. And the staff and the residents designed them together. Look at that flooring. That is linoleum flooring that looks like hardwood. So it's softer, it's quieter, and it's cheaper than hardwood. On the right, you can sort of see a fax machine. That's the staff work area. The medical records are, again, tucked up in the cupboards. Look at the over-the-bed light. It's not the typical over-the-bed light that's so institutional. They just put in more homey lamps. They also built this pass-through cupboard, it's called. So my friend, you can kind of see somebody on the other side. She's on the sink side. You can access toiletries, incontinence products either on the sink side or the bed side. And I love what they showed us here, everybody, that instead of having the linen carts in the hall, we put the linens in someone's room. Instead of having to go get incontinence products in a closet, they're stored in the room. And then guess what's in the little cubby hole with the key? Meds. And we're having a lot of results from that. I'm going to talk about that later in one of my other sessions. Meadowlark Hills is a leader in the household model. I just want to show you. Look at how you enter a household at Meadowlark Hills in Manhattan, Kansas. Is that not normal or what? Do you ring a bell coming into my house? Do I ring a bell coming into your house? You have to ring a bell to enter this household. And the elders might open the door or the staff and say, "What do you want?" And that's sort of true because they're so famous now that you have to have an appointment to go. And you can't just take a tour, you have to spend time in the household with the elders. Isn't that cool? And get to know them and have a meal. Isn't that fabulous? The Greenhouse Project. I wanted to show you a DVD about the Greenhouse Project, but it was 18 minutes long when I checked it last night, so sorry. You can go find it on the Greenhouse website. Let me just tell you a little bit about the greenhouses if you haven't heard. They stem from the Eden Alternative. Dr. Bill Thomas said, you know what, this Eden Alternative thing is really good, but it's not going as fast as it should, and we're doing it in these older models, which isn't bad, but what if we created the setting to really make it work? So they have literally built houses, everybody, that serve 10 elders at a time. They've actually created a new profession. He chose a Persian word to call the blended, cross-trained staff shabaz or shabazim, plural, and these staff are well-trained in taking care of elders in all aspects. So we have 10 elders living in a house, being taken care of by the shabazim. It's a hearth. Do you know what a hearth is? You know, an open area with a fireplace and an open kitchen and everything's open, so everyone's hanging out together if they choose or in their room. And you really got to get yourself that DVD because it is remarkable. Remarkable. They videotape the move-in day. So again, this was not staged. And they videotape a woman by the name of Mary Adams who does not even feed herself, let alone talk, in the nursing home. And the whole process of moving in and being in her new home and now eating a meal at a dining room table with other people, guess what she does? She grabs the fork and feeds herself. And by the end of the day, she is singing Amazing Grace with some other people. It'll draw you to tears. And I'm so sorry. I don't have enough time to show it to you, but you go get that DVD. Buy it if you have to. Even if you never become a greenhouse, we need these, stories of reminding us this can be done. Here's a fun picture of a home that simply did a buffet every Wednesday for all staff and all residents. And they invited staff to sit down and eat with the residents. Woo, what a concept. Do you know what I see in most nursing homes anyway across America? And it might be the same in the other settings, everybody. One time in the dining room during a survey, I saw a sign on the wall that said, "Staff may not eat in the dining room with residents." What is up with that? You can bathe me, you can help me in the bathroom, but you can't sit down and eat with me? Something's wrong with that. And many of your homes, I would guess, whether it's in policy or not, there tends to be an unwritten rule that staff may not eat with residents. And I say phooey on that. Phooey, phooey, phooey. What are we worried about, nurses? What are we worried about? There is a worry. What is it? Infection control. Well, sure, if I lick my fingers after eating my chicken and then butter your bread, yes, I have a problem. But you know what? Deal with that with me alone. Teach me better skills. Don't take it away from everybody else. I hate that when we do that. And start to invite your residents to have lunch with your staff, to have lunch with your residents. Just start to let it be okay. And you know what? It costs no money. And it will start to change your culture. And you know what this home did that goes even above and beyond? They said, we want you to sit and visit and eat with our residents and then go take your break. That is above and beyond. And I'm just saying, you could even start simpler and say, if you want to take your lunch with the residents, it's okay with us. Okay? Costs you no money. And some staff will do it. Here's a buffet, a breakfast buffet in Colorado. We brought the dining staff out of the kitchen. You know what they say? They love it. They love being with their residents. Here she's making crepes. And so it's breakfast to order, however you want it. Simple, easy thing to do. Here's another home that started doing a restaurant once a week for their residents who live in a locked building because they have mental illness, who never get to go to restaurants, who didn't grow up going to restaurants, right? Living in a state institution, etc. So they simply started having a menu, and staff served as the wait staff. And this took off so much, everybody. It wasn't too long when they turned all their dining service into restaurant service. Every meal, every day. And see, if you start small like this, you kind of learn how to do it. And you're like, sure, we could do it 2 times a month. Sure, we could do it once a week. Sure, we could do it every day. Snack bars, pantries, and kitchenettes. We are seeing a lot of these coming up where people can just go help themselves. And many of people start to worry, what if someone eats what they shouldn't eat? Well, remember, your job as a staff member is to remind people, to encourage people, to educate people, to do that risk-benefit analysis. But in the end, whose life is it? Are you going to shove the right food into someone's mouth? We don't go that far, right? And what would that be called? Abuse. So you do what you are responsible to do, and the rest of it is their life to live. I love these pictures of some fiesta wear, they call it. And here's a fun picture of some colored plates. Someone probably went to Pier 1 Imports and got them. Isn't that fun? And here's a room. It's not a child daycare center, but it's a room created for children, so they want to come. Maybe you don't have a room, I'm guessing, but you could put children's toys and toy boxes and tables out. They even did a playground at this big, huge, beautiful place in Kansas. How about changing a culture with no money? Eric Heider no longer is at this building, but everything you're going to see was true when I saw it with my own eyes. He's the one that said we teach people learn helplessness, and we put those CNAs in that predicament. And he did a lot of changes without a lot of money. Here's this, not fancy place in Bethany, Missouri. Look, not fancy. Eric Heider and his wife, Margie, she's a DON. Look at the sign, though, everybody. Not fancy, but look at that sign. Mealtime, eat anytime you want. Breakfast is this hour, and you can have your choice off the buffet or order from the menu. That's better than my house. I don't know about yours. Here's the hot food buffet. Help yourself if you're able. If not, the servers will get what you want. See the salad bar? As a surveyor, and I'm guessing as ombudsman, we often hear, all I want is more fresh food, more fresh vegetables and fruit. Providers, give it to them. Is fresh fruit and vegetables a good thing? Yeah, give it to them. So here we have people eating when they want to eat. Look at this, everybody. Notice the plate. I did not pose this picture. I realized that when I got my film developed, there's nothing on that plate. And something that Eric Heider says is when you make food and allow people to eat what they want in the amount they're hungry for, you will save money because you're not scraping food into the garbage. And sure enough, look at that, an empty plate. Here's assisted living, everybody. I love, love, love this picture. Look at them lined up to get their own food. Is that not great? And they get assistance if they need it. Here's a Western day where all the staff are pitching in, flipping burgers. The maintenance guy made a covered wagon. Look at this, everyone. This is a woman with dementia. This is a woman with dementia. And I just feel like that really says a lot. She knew they were having fun. She's living life. I just experienced life in this place. Look at this room. She has everything she ever owned. She fit it in there somehow. But what a wonderful room. It has everything she owns. And it was not an accident hazard. And notice what's on that TV tray, the nebulizer. In many rooms, all we see is what's wrong with the person. In this room, it was kind of camouflaged because we see her in this room. This is a semi-private or a shared room. Can you kind of tell there's a wall separating them? If you have any capability of putting a wall in between the two beds, the two parts of the room, it provides more privacy. People love it. Here's the courtyard. Here's a lead CNA. What a lead CNA does is they're a team leader. And guess what they're in charge of? You'll never guess. Quality of life. I love how Eric Heider said, the nurses don't have time to find the lost sweater or to set up appointments or to do this or that that's non-nursing. And when there's a fall or a new admission, that stuff goes on the back burner. So the poor nurse thinks about it on her day off. Oh my gosh, I never told someone that Mildred lost her sweater. So when you put the CNA in charge of those things and let the nurse do nursing only, everybody benefits. Just a view out the window. I've never seen the name of the place looking out the window as well as coming up the drive. Look at what this guy did, everybody. They decided to get everybody out of incontinence products. They had 53 people wearing incontinence products. They got 50 out of incontinence products. How did they do it? They anticipated people's needs. How many of you have ever worked as a restaurant server, waitress? Anybody? Do you know what gets us tips? When you anticipate people's needs. You pour the water before they ask, right? So you anticipate when you have to go to the bathroom. You learn your needs, you know, what pattern you're on. And they were able to help people go to the bathroom when they want to go to the bathroom. And guess how much money you save when you don't use incontinence products? He claimed $90,000 in 1 year. Get this, every neighborhood was required to do spontaneous activity, to do one spontaneous activity every day. Isn't it hilarious and ironic that he mandated spontaneity? But isn't it also brilliant? Because just think, if you lived in this place, you would know tomorrow there's going to be 5 spontaneous activities and nobody even knows what they are yet. I mean, that's kind of cool, kind of exciting. And some of you are like, not really to me, but that's okay too, because you can stay in your room. So this was kind of cool. The social worker, we didn't meet till late in the day because they said at lunchtime, well, we think she left around 10 with some guys to go golfing. We think she left around 10. Isn't that cool? We didn't meet the activity director till later because at noon they said, well, we think she left around 10:30 and took some residents to play pool. He would take people out to lunch wherever they wanted to go, whenever they wanted to go. How did he do that, right? You know what he said? He said, Carmen, it's another human phenomenon. When you tell people you can go anywhere you want, they don't believe you at first. So they want to go. Oh, if David's going to Taco Bell, I want to go to Taco Bell. Or I want to go to Pizza Hut or whatever, right? And only in the beginning was it a big deal to get people, because then it became normal. Isn't that great? Giving rampant normalcy back to people. They had a 20-second average call light answer time, everybody. Did you see that? 20-second. And I was hearing him tout this for many years, and finally I'm in his place, and thank God I remembered to ask a resident to pull her call button, and we timed it. So because he says 20 seconds, at 20 seconds, no one was there. Do you feel better? At 40 seconds, nobody was there, and he was a little miffed. At 1 minute, I kid you not, 3 people came running into that room, a nurse, a CNA, and a maintenance guy. 1 minute, and they were late. Is that not amazing? He did the cross-training of staff. Any one of them could have helped the resident. Another place to start is everybody answers a call light, right? Because in case someone needs water, I can give water, right? But don't you dare turn off the light. Don't turn it off, because that is disrespectful. They still need to go to the bathroom if that's the case, right? He built a ramp onto one resident's church so she could go to her church. He built the ramp. And you know what he said? That resident sitting in the middle of that church in her wheelchair, she's my she's my marketing director. And he's right. And he didn't need a marketing director anymore because he was doing all this creative stuff. He also pays for the beauty shop. These are unbelievable things to me to this day. And this was already back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he said, many of my residents will not pay their own money to go to the beauty shop. And I want them to feel good about who they are, so I pay for it. He had a staff massage therapist who was also a reflexologist and an aromatherapist. He makes a big deal about learning your residents' wants and wishes. He has a form. It's not fancy. Again, the consistent staffing. And I said some of this already. He had 2 social workers. He only needed 1 now because he didn't have any complaints anymore. Decreased behaviors, that whole business about not waking people up. You can wake up when you want, eat when you want. They are putting other neighboring homes out of business. And look at all these stats, everybody, the money savings that I mentioned. And he was doing this on really low Medicaid reimbursement in Missouri almost 10 years ago, but he was doing all of that. And he empowered his staff to make team goals. Just wonderful stuff. And look at this. His mission was to boldly go where no long-term care facility has gone before. He's my hero. He's consulting if you ever want to grab a hold of him. Okay, here's some other outcomes, everyone. Look at these outcomes. The Eden study, a 2-year study. Look at the decrease in behaviors and pressure sores and people in bed and restraints and people calling in absent. A decrease in employee injuries, and an increase, of course, in census. Here's Providence Mount St. Vincent up in Washington. Decrease in staff turnover, good decreases in quality indicators. Evergreen, overall resident, staff, family satisfaction. Here's some more New York homes. Fairport. In that household model, they're finding that people do more. When people sleep and they're well rested, they're more interested in life. Relationships, reductions of all incidents. Look at this one. Kim McCrae, look at this one. Improvement in memory for residents with dementia. Who can tout that their residents' memories are getting better? There are lots of reasons to do this, everybody, and people are living longer. Staff love it. They don't leave you. Here, look at these stats. Why don't you just look at these later? Those of you that are money types, you got to look at these. Look at all these win-wins. Cost of advertising went down, agency costs down, workman comp way down, food costs. Actually, food costs went up because they did fine dining, but when you're saving all that big money elsewhere. Supplies, census went up, Medicare census up, the income up. There's so many reasons to do culture change. These are the typical culture change outcomes. Your census will increase, your turnover will go down, increased satisfaction by everybody, staff stick around longer, you will save money, you'll use your money more efficiently, and you can be that world maker and make it better. So, must I stop talking right this minute, or can I keep going? Kim? I have a list of resources, another handout, resources. I better not zip through them, but I've made you a picture and shown where to go for all the resources that are out there. And come on up. Oh, good, 3 or 4 minutes. I can do it. If I don't go through every single resource, I can just end like a good speaker. And a lot of those are on the website. So, what are the signs of an institutional culture? You guys mentioned most of these. So, you've mentioned most on the left, on the right. This is from me to you. On a DVD that Action Pack sells, there's a woman who says, when I came to this nursing home, it was a household model, I, the resident, asked, what are the rules here? And they told me, there's no rules here. Isn't that a great picture? From the almighty schedule to, there's no rules here. Person first, relationships, choices, living life, giving residents and caregivers power. Now, you all represent different places on this long-term care spectrum. What are some things that you've heard today that might apply to the non-nursing home setting? Choice, person first, relationship. You tell me, I'm guessing those fit. Come on. Design and setup. What else? Does anything apply? Relationships. So again, think about that all day long. What can you do? You can join the national movement. You can join your Georgia network. Just learn everything you can. Like Walter said about Kim, that was me too. I read every single thing I can get. I give you, on that other handout, I didn't have time, on resources, I've given you every website that has anything to do with culture change. Just go, make them your favorites. If you can, buy everything they sell and read it. And then share it with others. Promote culture change and, like I said, self-directed care in your circle of influence, no matter where you work and no matter what your role. Anything anybody wants to say? Any questions, comments, thoughts? Otherwise, we invite you to a call to action. That was the theme of the Pioneer Network, and we each can answer a call to action. Thank you.
Ooh, great.